United Kingdom finds itself embroiled in a bizarre controversy as officials attempt to ban the English flag from the public square. As tensions increase in the country due to the irregular violence committed by immigrants, the question of national identity has become central. The native English, tired of watching as more foreigners pour in while their daughters are raped by immigrant grooming gangs, have begun to signal their displeasure by raising the red and white St. George's cross. Government officials are manufacturing excuses to remove these flags, even as immigrants take down the Union Jack to replace it with the flag of Pakistan. Some may see this as an absurd game over a piece of fabric, but it's a representation of an existential struggle that is gripping the UK. When people inside the same country start fighting over flags, it's an indication that civil war could be on the horizon. In our hyper-materialistic modern world, we've been taught to believe that flags are nothing but a scrap of fabric from a barbaric age. The idea that a simple banner holds a sacred status worth fighting or dying over sounds like some absurd relic held over from clashing feudal lords. One of the most important tricks that our ruling class has used to subdue their populations is to get them to ignore important truths about human nature. No matter what progressives say to the public, they know flags matter, which is why activists ensured that the pride flag replaced both American and British flags in many public spaces. They even gave it a place of primacy in Biden's White House. Replacing a flag might seem like an inconsequential act in a practical sense, but most battles are just as spiritual as they are physical. When the flag of the people falls, so does the fighting spirit of the people themselves. The United Kingdom has a complicated history of conflict. The multiple peoples of the British Isles and their separate kingdoms were forged into one united kingdom, which is represented by the integration of the English flag into the larger Union Jack. When the UK became an empire, the emphasis on British identity only intensified, though it was still understood that the core cultural identity was still very, very English in nature. Now the English find their identity under siege from the very united state that they helped to build, with some UK politicians asserting that the English ethnos doesn't even exist at all. The flag of empire, once resented by some of the peoples it conquered, now represents the subjugation of the English people themselves. It's not that the UK government is simply unresponsive to the health of its dominant ethnos. The leadership seems actively hostile to it. Immigrants can refuse to assimilate, demand accommodations for foreign religions, show open ethnic hatred for the English, and commit horrific acts of violence, but the government continues to welcome them in by the boatload. Social media is censored so that criticism of immigration policy doesn't offend newcomers, and protests against immigration are swiftly punished. In a time where free speech has been discarded in an attempt to forge a multicultural society, displaying a simple English flag is an act of rebellion. While the UK media has voiced displeasure at the organic trend of flying the English flag, the state has been smart enough not to ban it outright. Local officials find obscure ordinances or make up excuses as to why the flag must be removed, even though the pride flag and other foreign flags regularly have been flown without incident. It's gotten so ridiculous that some people are even spray painting the English flag into potholes just to force the government to actually fix them. But no matter how many flags the government takes down under its manufactured pretenses, patriotic Englishmen who are sick of what's going on raise them once again. It's a clever and non-violent protest which is difficult to stop, and every time the government attempts to do so, it simply highlights how justified the English are in taking a stand. This battle of flags has not gone unnoticed by the foreign populations that now dominate pockets of the UK. These groups are from countries where ethnic solidarity is deeply encouraged and conflict with other groups is freely acknowledged. No matter what the government claims, these communities know they're not English, and they know that the presence of the St. George's Cross means something. In response, immigrants have begun taking down Union Jacks and replacing them with the flag of Pakistan. For all the attempts to convince people that flags are antiquated and meaningless, when the chips are down, people will fly and defend the flag which they ultimately are loyal to. When immigration riots broke out in Los Angeles in June, it was the Mexican flag that dominated the landscape. Those protesting the ICE raids didn't attempt to show their solidarity with the country in which they wished to remain, but instead flew a foreign flag to signal their wish to dominate the United States in the name of another country. Until just a few minutes ago, everyone knew that raising a foreign flag was a declaration of conquest, and that's exactly what these immigrants are signaling both in the US and the UK. They're not here to integrate, they're not here to assimilate, they're not here to enrich, they're here to conquer. While the situation in America is bad, the odds against the English are much worse. Americans, despite the best efforts of the news media, judicial system, and an assassin's bullet, elected Donald Trump on the promise of closing the border and deporting illegal aliens. The Trump administration has delivered impressively on the border, shutting crossings down almost entirely. They've also begun deportations, though the rate at which those operations have occurred leaves much to be desired. Nevertheless, the American people were able to elect a tough-on-immigration candidate who has successfully stopped the bleeding, even if he has not fully reversed the damage. There still seems to be some hope for a political solution. In the United Kingdom, there is no real representation for immigration reform. The Conservatives promised to address the problem and then let in record numbers of migrants. The Labour government under Keir Starmer has gone to comically authoritarian lengths to silence all opposition to the multicultural project. Nigel Farage's Reform Party was supposed to be the answer, but they've gone soft on the issue to avoid accusations of radicalism. Rupert Lowe seems to be the lone figure who actually understands what time it is, but he lacks the party infrastructure to create real change. The rising tensions and lack of political solutions have led experts like David Betts, professor of war at King's College London, to warn that civil war could be on the horizon. As bleak as the political situation may seem, the fact that the English continue their fight shows a spark of real hope. UK elites may plan to silence the English in their quest for a multicultural authoritarian state, but the native inhabitants of the island will not go quietly. Protesters are jailed, banners are torn down, and social media posts are censored, but repeatedly, another proud flag is raised in defiance. The silent recognition of English identity has already raised tensions between natives and immigrants, and it will likely continue to escalate until drastic action is taken. The political class in the UK have decided to put the boot on the neck of the English people rather than hear their concerns. But that must change because this is likely their last off-ramp before a much darker future takes hold. Thanks for watching, guys. If you enjoyed this video, go ahead and click like, and if you haven't subscribed yet, now is a great time to do so. If you'd like to get these broadcasts as podcasts, you need to subscribe on your favorite podcast platform, and when you do, if you would leave a rating and review, it really helps with the algorithm magic. If you'd like to follow me on Twitter, or Gab, or Substack, or Instagram, if you'd like to watch these videos on Rumble or Odyssey, the links to do all of that are down below in the description. And of course, you can watch all of my shows and read all of my columns over at The Blaze. Thanks for watching, and as always, I'll talk to you next time.